Hi everyone, and thanks for joining. In this episode, we're going to talk about the electric future. Here's a rundown of all the things that will be covered. The electric vehicle market leader. Who's leading the race in this industry, and is anyone close? A European dividend company already set in the EV charging space. Companies we can add to our portfolio for exposure to the EV market. And finally, stick around to see a newly created pie in the portfolio, catered to the EV industry, including some dividend company. So some of you might recognize this show. This is an episode from the Jetsons. The last episode was produced in the late 1980s. For those who don't know, it was a kids' cartoon show mainly based around the future.
The 21st century. Transportation, space travel, robotics, teleconferencing,
Right, Tip.
and supersonic sports. This vision of ours.
So looking back at that, it looks a bit crazy and unrealistic. But how unrealistic is it, and how far are we away from that kind of reality? Elon Musk's SpaceX. If you've got deep pockets, £1 million deep pockets, then you can book a flight and pick a date. Whether it's going to go ahead or not is another question, but it's there. Then we move on to robotics. So, there's a robot in Japan that can do some push-ups. That's good enough, right? I think that counts. And then we're hit with teleconferencing, which most people have used in some capacity in 2020. For example, there's Zoom, there's Microsoft Teams, Skype, even FaceTime and WhatsApp video calling. So who's leading the race for the electric future? If we're talking about electric vehicles, charging, autonomy, Tesla has to be in the conversation, the market leaders. They have got a foot deep already in the market that is predicted to grow 40% year on year for the next few years. For the first half of 2020, Tesla's market share was 28%, which is more than its next three competitors all put together. China took the plug-in vehicle market by storm, with 645,000 units sold in the first half of 2019. By 2024, the electric vehicle station market is expected to reach a compound annual growth rate of 38%. In 2018, the US saw 1 million registered electric cars on the road. By 2030, there'll be around 4 million electric vehicles in California alone. Electric vehicles are less likely to roll over than conventional ones during a collision. Here you can see the growth in the last 10 years in the EV market globally, averaging on 40 to 50% every year, only slowing down in 2019 due to the trade war. Here we can also see in the last 6 years the growth of the global electric car fleet. So what about the electric charging market? So let me touch on this briefly. The electric vehicle charging stations market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 39.8% from 2020 to 2027 to reach 29.7 billion by 2027. Whereas in terms of volume, the market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 31.8% from 2020 to 2027. So this market is majorly driven by government incentives, funding for the installation of charging stations, and automakers' initiatives for the charging infrastructure development. However, the high cost of it does obstruct the growth of the market to some extent. So who are the top EV charging companies that you can invest in? First up, we've got Tesla, ChargePoint, BP, Blink, Siemens, Shell, and ABB. There are plenty others, however, on the platform as in Trading 212, most of these are available to invest in. So who are these companies? Most people know about Tesla, so I'll go straight over to ChargePoint. ChargePoint, previously called Column Technologies, claims to manage the world's largest network of electric vehicle charging points. In 2017, it took over General Electric's 10,000 charging stations, which added to its pre-existing 35,000. Latest figures suggest the company has around about 60,000 in total. ChargePoint says its public and private stations are dotted around US, Canada, Mexico and other countries. Then over to BP. The famous energy giant is probably more interested in electric power than is good for its oil and gas business. Nonetheless, BP claims to be the largest provider of charging points in the UK through ChargeMaster, acquired for 130 million last year with almost 7,000 units. It's followed by the acquisition of a 25 million investment in fast charging technologies. Then we go to Blink. Blink was a company that was tipped by analysts to become the biggest in the market. Now that title probably belongs to ChargePoint. Nonetheless, Blink Charging is a sizable company with a market cap of almost 70 million. It has around 150,000 registered members and has installed somewhere in the region of 15,000 charging stations in the US. Then over to Siemens, Europe's largest engineering company. Siemens has demonstrated a number of charging solutions, both for standard and fast charging for the home as well as public roads. The company was an investor in ChargePoint a couple of years ago and has since installed hundreds of charging points across Europe. Siemens claims it's established a leading position within this growing market and prioritising fast charging solution as well as extensive technical support. Then we go up to Shell, another energy giant. Along with BP, Shell also appears to be keen to get into electric vehicle charging market and is doing so through its Green Lots business unit, which it acquired at the start of this year for an undisclosed amount. Shell claims to be investing 200 million a year in alternative energy solutions and says it will increase it to 1 billion by the end of 2020. In 2017, it acquired EV charging specialist New Motion, which has more than 30,000 points across Europe and access to 50,000 more. And last but not least, we go to ABB. The company is one of the largest industrial robot manufacturers in the world, but a much larger part of ABB's business is power generation equipment. So it's probably inevitable that it will become one of the leading suppliers of downstream power equipment. And ABB has unveiled a range of charging solutions for fast charging of buses and cars. However, it is not yet among the leaders in the EV charging stations market, although its recent partnership with Porsche to develop EV chargers will inevitably raise its profile. So who are the dividend paying companies in this industry? So ABB, a Swiss stock, currently yielding a dividend yield of 3.34%. And here we can see ABB's steady dividend history, the only downside being that they only pay once a year. And here's quite an interesting video from ABB, which gives an insight into their company and their philosophy.
So, you ready?
Yeah, yes.
When you're older, what do you think you're going to drive?
Probably an electric car.
What do you want your future to be like?
I think in the future, I want everyone to be happy. I want no air pollution, no pollution, lots of fresh air, really clean air, no pollution or anything. A clean, beautiful world. Yeah. Our future is important to us, but we have some questions. Number 1. Why are electric cars better than normal cars? Do many people drive EV cars? Will I be driving an electric car one day? Aren't they really expensive? What can EV cars actually do for us? Can EV cars actually change anything?
The environmental energy concern is a concern for all of us. It's very important that we leave to our children an earth that is sustainable for their future. You have to be aware of the environment, and it will be worse and worse if we do nothing today.
Most of the cars today run on combustion engines, and a combustion engine is burning fuel. If you switch to an electric vehicle, you can use renewable energy, which is available without limits.
And that energy can come from solar, from the sun, or from wind, for example, and we are not consuming them.
EV technology has the power to change the future and to change the air quality. We will have no more air pollution in the cities. Everyone will drive electric cars, scooters, buses. Everything will be electric.
That future is pretty soon. Many people from that younger generation will adopt the electric vehicle.
As long as we can manage to store the energy and produce the energy in a sustainable way, that's going to be great for everyone.
A decade ago, you needed to charge your car overnight. With the new technology of ABB, you can charge your car within 8 minutes.
We want to improve the air quality, and we want, as parents, the best future possible for our children.
These are our kids and our future. It's their right to live in a healthy environment, and it's our duty to prepare that future for them.
Are EVs the future? A very blunt answer, yes.
So quite a compelling creative video from ABB. I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Now quickly head on over to the ABB website. The website is set out really well. It's quite futuristic. You can see where their commitment lies for the future. You can see the company is renewable driven, and you can also see their commitment to the EV charging space and different things that they've invested into. So I'd highly recommend taking a look at the company at their website if you are interested at all in investing into them. Now over to the second dividend payer who will be in our pie is Siemens. We have a 3.5% dividend yield and a decent dividend history, as you can see here. Then we go to our exposure to lithium, which is Albemarle, which are paying a 1.6% dividend yield. Quite a solid dividend payer, not a great yield, but you can see the dividend growth here looks quite good. Now we get into the portfolio. So here you can see the pie that I've created and the holdings here within the pie with 3 dividend paying companies. The dividends that are generated from these companies will be reinvested straight into the portfolio to buy to add to the positions across the board. Also guys, as you can see, there's not a lot of money invested into this current pie, which my next round of investments I will be investing more into the pie. So we're going to be invested into this pie for the long term, really. Deposit in every month. It's not going to be our main focal point. You know, it's just going to be an addition to make sure that we've got exposure in this sector. So most of the companies here in the pie I've gone over. There is Switchback Energy, which will be merging with ChargePoint. So the only possibility to invest into ChargePoint, which I wanted to do, is via Switchback. So yeah, that will get us into ChargePoint, which I think that they'll be a big player in the future and have quite a lot of the market share at present. So we've got Tesla and NIO there, concentrating more towards the electric vehicle front. We've got our electric charging companies that are focusing on that. We've also got our exposure to lithium also, which obviously is important in making electric batteries for these vehicles. You'll also notice another stock there called Workhorse. It's another stock which I've decided to have in the pie. The company basically have designed electric delivery vans and have also delivery drones, which they're working on. which you can see here. So yeah, quite an interesting company, and that's why they are in the pie also. So thanks guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.